I'm visiting with Vince Gill. Vince has never been on our show. I've seen Vince around Nashville for a long time. Vince, first of all, let's talk about When I Call Your Name. Tell me about that record, a recent number one record for you.
Well, it's the record that I've been waiting to have for about 7 years now in Nashville, and I wrote the song with Tim Dubois, and that thrills me equally that I've written my so-called career record. You know, everybody dreams of having one, and with the sales and the popularity of this record, I think finally hit the hanging curveball.
This song, long time coming for you?
It has been, yeah. It really kind of goes back to, for a long time I sit back now in hindsight and can look back and look at the other records I've made, and I enjoyed those records, and I'll stand by them successfully or in their failure, and I think that this finally found the niche for me vocally, musically. It goes back into a lot of the bluegrass roots and the harmony structure and all the things that I really did cut my teeth on more so than the other side of the fence, and a little bit more of an honest representation of what I really do.
What is your niche?
I hope it's singing a good country song, and this day and age there's not many high singing country guys. It's a very baritone oriented business for guys right now with Randy and Ricky Van and Clint and all those guys. They sing fairly low, and Mark Chestnut and all these guys, and I got a tenor voice, so it's a little different, and finding the right songs with the right melody and such that can really fit my voice.
What is the follow-up to When I Call Your Name?
Never Knew Lonely. It's a song that I've had written for about 4 or 5 years, and it's another ballad.
And this is out of the album When I Call Your Name.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the hit record with Reba earlier this year led to your number one record?
No doubt it helped. I don't know that. I've had some other records that have done equally as well as the duet with Reba, but I think having Reba in my camp, so to speak, by the artist of her stature, coming and doing a duet with an artist of my stature. At the time, I was not like riding the crest of the top, and for her to come along and do that duet with me was a big feather in my cap and a nice pat on my back, and I think it might have showed a few folks that there was some interest.
Oklahoma Swing?
Yeah.
How high did that one go?
Got to 7, and
was that the highest you had gone?
Close to the highest. I got to 5 with
You did.
Cinderella.
You had a record called Cinderella once, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I've gotten almost every number in the top 10 now.
And finally, number one.
Finally, number 1, yes, sir.
Are they going to have a number one party for you?
We did about 2 weeks ago. It was the MCA and BMI both threw the party, and they said it was one of the biggest parties they ever had.
That had to make you feel good.
It made me feel great because there were so many people that, in most cases, I'd guess you got your pals in the industry that come at the record label and all that. But I had so many different people from different labels and different songwriters and publishers and golfing buddies, and it was just a really great celebration.
You used to be with a group.
Mm-hmm. Pure Prairie League back in 79 through 82, 83, something
What was
like
their big hit?
Their biggest chart-wise was a song I sang for them, Let Me Love You Tonight, excuse me. But their most popular thing was definitely Amy.
Amy.
I think.
Did you sing the lead on Amy?
No, I was still in junior high school when that was a record.
And the Pure Prairie League, I recall, as I recall, they're still out there.
They're not together anymore. They
Really?
finally, like a couple of years ago, disbanded and made a best-of album of everybody that was involved in the band and kind of called it quits, and everybody's doing other things.
Have you hung on in Nashville as a songwriter?
Sort of. I've had a few things cut. I think Alabama has a song of mine on their new album. I know they do. I've seen the album. But it has a possibility of being one of their singles, song called Here We Are.
Its title is what?
Here We Are, and wrote it with Beth Chapman and Crystal Gale and Roseanne, and several people have cut some of my songs, but the bulk of my income for the longest time was through songwriting and doing session work on other folks' records.
What do you play?
Everything. Put strings on it, and I can
You play
get
all
a sound
instruments?
out of it. Yeah.
What are the major records you've played on?
Rodney Crowell's Above and Beyond, Patty Loveless's Timber. I do a lot of harmony stuff as well. Reba's You Lie, her new hit. several of Roseanne's records, all of Conway Twitty's last 3 albums. I did all the backgrounds on, and I got together with a pen and paper, and I think there was well over 100 different artists that I'd worked with since I've been here.
Have you written a successful song for anyone else other than for Vince Gill?
Not as big as mine, no. If Alabama would hopefully release that as a single, that might buy me a new bass boat.
Now that you have had this #1 record, and now it seems that you could have even more, do you plan to form a band and go out and hit the road?
I've been out all year long, and even with the hit and miss records that I've had over the last 6 or 7 years, I tried to work the road as much as I could. It was tough without a huge hit record to get out there for the money you could get to play live and take 5 or 6 guys out and pay them a fair wage to go out and work, and
Rent a bus?
yeah, I mean, buses are expensive and hotels are expensive, and it's all real tough to get out there and not lose your shirt on the road. But as much as I could, I'd been out there and hitting the road. But since When I Call Your Name is taken off, I've really hit the road extra hard.
So the road was not new for you?
No, sir.
Are you gearing up for an extensive bout on the road?
Well, I was out all summer. What are we now, in the middle of September? I probably worked 80 dates already this year.
Is there more money to be made on the road than staying in Nashville singing on record sessions?
Not really. I mean, my career is maybe a little different than some of the other folks because I write and I do get to do those things, and the songwriting is basically where I'm going to earn the bulk of my income, and I try to treat the road more as a break-even situation and try to find a band, and I've got a great band together now, and pay them as much as I can, without losing money, and basically have the road be their, chance to make some money.
Vince, did you make a record with Patty Loveless?
Several. I did all the background stuff on Timber, Chains, On Down the Line, Lonely Side of Love. I think about 8 of Patty's hits. I've done the background stuff. We're getting ready to do a duet album, I think.
Do you get billing on these records?
No.
Will you?
No.
Now that you are a star, will you get billing?
Nah, don't need it. You get the credit on the back of the album jacket, when you work on the records, and that's good enough for me.
Tell these people about your wife.
She's one of the sweethearts of the rodeo, and she tours about as much as I do, so we never get to see each other. But we've been married 10 years, and that's
We're talking
pretty,
about Janice.
Yeah, my wife Janice Gill, and for 10 years, for 2 folks to stay together in this business doing what we do is a pretty good effort.
How do you do it?
We never see each other. We don't have time to fight.
How often do you see Janice?
Well, we see each other a lot more than you'd think. We don't consciously try to work our careers to, the point of you work 2 weeks in August and I'll work the other 2, and so on and so forth. You just basically take what you get, out there with the gigs, and we take what we get with the time we get to spend together, and it was not a surprise going in what we were going to have to do to have careers in the music business. So we don't, whine and cry about not getting to spend as much time together. The good thing about it is we're always pretty glad to see each other.
Well, I would imagine. How about your phone bill?
It's pretty serious.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to buy stock in AT&T.
Do you make records with that group?
No, I've done some stuff, played a little guitar on a record or 2 of theirs and sang a few harmonies here and there on their records, but we purposely kept the careers separate. It makes it a lot easier for the home life, if the careers are kept separate. Because when they first moved to town, I'd had, I guess, a couple of top 10 hits, if it weren't for him, and Oklahoma Borderline, and a few things going on in town, and I took their tape to CBS Records and played it for them. I said, I think they're really good, and you should sign them, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And they agreed and did, and from that point on, I've been completely absent from their career, because I think that they had the talent, and I didn't want people, looking in and saying, well, the reason they got a record deal is because of who Vince knew, and vice versa.
But isn't that true?
Well, in a sense, but anybody can get a tape to the A&R staffs at a record company, and that's
Not anybody.
well, I tell you,
Some people who are listening to me right now have had doors shut in their faces.
they get heard more than they think they do.
Vince, I think you're underselling your effort. So you actually took the tape, and that's how CBS discovered the Sweethearts of the Rodeo.
Yeah.
Vince, I understand you are a scratch golfer.
Well, I was until When I Call Your Name hit the charts. You might be able to take me now, Ralph.
You mean you slacked off a little bit?
It's slacked off a little bit. I'm not getting to play near as much, but there was a time when I was young. I started playing golf and competitive golf in the 3rd grade. Played all through school and high school, and I didn't go to college. But if I did, that's what I was going to do, was try to play golf for one of the schools. And
anybody offer you a golf scholarship?
No, never did. And I don't know if I could have made the grade over in college anyway. Wasn't the greatest high school student in life, and I just knew I wanted to play music really bad, and just took off when I was 18. Put all the things that I owned in my van and drove away and moved to Kentucky and started playing bluegrass. And
where are you from?
Oklahoma City. That's where I grew up.
And did you win a number of schoolboy championships?
No, I didn't. I was not the greatest player in school history down there. I could compete and I'd win a match or two here and there, but a lot of the kids some of the kids I played school golf with now play the tour. And I think, maybe if I dedicated myself as hard to golf as I did to music, then I could have made the grade.
Well, that was my next question. Did you ever consider a career as a professional golfer?
Yeah, I did, because that's all I knew how to do was play the guitar and sing and hit a golf ball. My mom said if you hadn't made it as a singer, I don't know what you'd have done, So it was pretty much one or the other. But I have no idea if I could have gone out there and played at that level. I can hit it with them tee to green, and they've just got the extra 4 or 5 shots that I don't have,
Well, I hear the talk. I hear from people who've either witnessed you playing or played with you. They tell me you're pretty good.
Well,
they'd like to know which shots you're missing.
I don't know. It's just you go out there and shoot 68, 69 every now and then. I think the difference is that I could beat Greg Norman 1 out of 20 times, but he's going to beat me 19 out of 20 times.
How long are you off the tee?
Extremely long. That's, I guess, my greatest asset is distance. I've been known to hit it a ways. There's the story of this one hole that's down in Florida somewhere, and it's like 620 yards long or something. It's a par 5, and they had the guys from the 350 Club, which are all these guys like Mike Dunaway and Big Cat Williams and all these long-hitting studs that can all hit at 350 plus. You got to hit it that far to be in their club, and I reached this green in 2, and they had their 350 Club down there and all down there for a day, and none of them could get home in 2 in this hole. So.
What he's talking about, in 2 shots, he went 650 yards. That's a long hole.
Yeah, well, lucky.
How long were you on your drive? 400 yards?
I don't know. It was just 2 balls killed.
I want to know what you hit your second shot with.
Oh, a graphite shafted 3-wood that was loaded.
Boy, it must have been. You were going to tell me a story about playing with Lee Trevino.
Well, it was we were playing a scramble, and there was a gallery of 200 or 300 people, and everybody hit, and they forgot me, and everybody
How many
walking.
in the group? Was it foursome, fivesome?
Yeah, 5 of us and Lee, I think, or something like that, and so everybody hit and started walking. And I said, "Wait a minute!" I said, "One more," and so I caught it flush and good, and smoked it about 300 yards, just straight down the middle, and. Right after I hit it, Lee Trevino just jumped back. He says, "God dang!" He says, "Well, I got to look at that all day." He says, "You must spend a lot of money on golf balls." And I said, "How's that?" He says, "They burn up when they re-enter the atmosphere."
Well, that's very flattering.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to play golf with.
Did you outdrive him?
Oh, consistently, but that ain't the name of the game out there.
What is it? Jerry Whitehurst, our musical conductor on Nashville Now. One day I topped one, but I got on anyway. And he said, the book doesn't say how, it says how many.
That's exactly right. They don't want a picture on that scorecard, just a number.
I'm really a little surprised that I know music has had a great call in your case. I'm a little surprised that you didn't pursue golf.
Well, I don't really have the temperament for it. Honestly, I'm at times a hothead.
Are you really?
Yeah.
See, that's a side of you I've never seen.
And that's a good thing, 'cause it's not pretty. People tease me about my putter. It's got enough frequent flyer miles to get a free trip around the world. But that, a lot of that's been in my younger days, and it's hard to not be real competitive and take it real serious. And,
What
and all
upsets
that.
you?
Oh, just playing bad shot here and there, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Does that carry over into the music business, where there are
Every now
lots
and
of
then.
frustrations?
Every now and then, sure there is. There's times where you're not playing great or having a great show or what have you, anything, and can work on you a little bit. But I try to keep it in check and am doing a lot better as I get older.
You mentioned to me earlier that you play all the instruments. You really have a lot of talent.
Well,
You play steel guitar,
I did. I gave that up. That
Banjo?
was scary. Yeah,
Fiddle?
banjo, little fiddle, not much. After I started hearing some of these guys play, I put that back in the case.
you mean Mark O'Connor?
Oh yeah, Mark and Cast of Thousands. But I played fiddle in Pure Prairie League and could kind of fool them. Just go out there and dance around a bit and with the certain crowd, all it's got to do is be the sound of the instrument, and that's what really affects them. But I play some of the instruments a little bit better.
You play
than that.
piano?
Not much. I can play Last Date, not very well.
Lead guitar?
Oh yeah, I play all the
Is that-
guitar on my records. And
Is that your instrument?
that's the deal. Yeah, for me, it's guitar.
You play on stage?
Oh yeah.
Is the guitar on stage sometimes a crutch?
Yeah, I'm real uncomfortable without it. I had to 6 years ago, I won the Best New Male Vocalist of the Year for the Academy of Country Music. I had to go out and do a handheld thing, and I was just felt naked standing up there. and
Without that guitar in front of you?
Yeah, it's just definitely a crutch. My best buddy.
Vince, I have a brief biography of Vince Gill. You tell me if this is correct. Born Vincent Grant Gill,
Yes, sir.
Norman, Oklahoma.
That's right.
So you must be a big OU football fan.
That's right. We get them all out of prison. We're going to have a good football team.
Guitarist from age 10, had his own band at age 15.
So far, so good.
What was the name of your band?
There was two of them. One was called Mountain Smoke, and one was called the Bluegrass Review.
Well, this says worked with Mountain Smoke while still in high school, moved to Louisville in 1975, played with the Bluegrass Alliance.
That's right. That's some of the guys that originally were the Newgrass Revival guys that originally played with the Bluegrass Alliance.
Who
years
played
before
who
that.
played in that band?
Sam Bush was played in the Alliance for a while, and so did Curtis and Courtney. And Curtis Birch and Courtney Johnson were the three original guys in Newgrass, and a guy named Ebo Walker.
I didn't realize this. You were a cherry bomb.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
How long were you a cherry bomb?
I still am, in theory. I started playing with Rodney and Roseanne both. That was the name of their
Yeah, whose
backup
band originally was this? Rodney's or
It was
Roseanne?
Rodney's original band. It was me, Larry London, Emery Gordy, Tony Brown, and Hank DeVito.
That's not a bad band.
That's a seriously great band. It's the best band I've ever been in. I was the lead guitar player and sang high harmony with Rodney. A lot of people said, "Now, why did you leave a major rock band, Pure Prairie League, and you're having hits, and to go play with a songwriter from Texas?" And I said, "Well, look at the band, and that'll give you all the reason needed, because there's a lot of musicians still in me, and those kinds of things are equally as important to me."
Let's break that band down for a moment.
Okay.
Tony Brown,
Tony Brown,
he's now a senior record producer.
my record producer
Is
right
he?
here at MCA. Yeah, he's the one that signed me to
Is
RCA.
he head of A&R here at MCA?
Yes, sir. And he played piano with Elvis and the Oaks, and comes from a gospel background and produces a lot of seriously great records these days.
What else happened to some of those guys?
Emery Gordy also played with Elvis for a while, and John Denver, and he was one of the original members of Emmylou Harris's Hot Band. And that's where a lot of these guys, first got together and all that was in Emmy's band. And Emery produced my first two albums and played bass. And then he still produces records here in Nashville for numerous folks.
Hank DeVito?
Hank was a steel guitar player. He wrote Queen of Hearts and a few other hits, and he really kind of got tired of the road and playing steel guitar and is devoting a lot of time to photography and producing records and artwork and writing songs.
Who are we leaving out?
Larry London.
Great drummer.
The best. It's scary how many hit records Larry's played on, and it was. I'll never forget the first time we stepped on stage. I'd never played with a kicking band like that. And I went to rehearsal and I knew all my parts and I was all ready, and they kicked it off and started, and I said, "Oh my God, this is scary." So I was way up on my toes to keep up with those guys.
And I guess Larry London is still making records, isn't he?
You bet. Yeah, he's playing on my new album.
He's one of the most in-demand drummers this town has ever had.
Oh, yeah.
Vince, I'm going to name some songs that you have had out in the past, and I would like to have your initial reaction, whatever comes through your mind. We'll call it sort of word association.
Okay.
All right? In 1987, you had a top 5 record. In fact, it was number 5, Cinderella.
Cinderella, I thought, was a real unique record. It kind of blended some of my bluegrass past, and I always called it the Bill Monroe meets the Beach Boys in the bridge, because it had a lot of different harmonies, and the harmony structure was very odd.
Was this the same one Tony Booth had?
No.
Okay, that's a different Cinderella.
I think
There
so.
is another one.
Is it really? I don't know.
How about If It Weren't For Him?
If it weren't for him, that's the song that I really felt was maybe one of the better songs and records that I ever made. And I think my career would have been in a lot different shape if that record could have been released when it was recorded. We recorded it and had it ready to be the first single for my solo career. It was a duet with Roseanne Cash, and we wrote the song. But for political reasons, we got in trouble, and the other record company wouldn't let Roseanne have the record out. And
You were on 2 different labels.
Yeah, so it really created a lot of problems. And we'd had the record released, and it was really doing very well. And they had to take it off, and pull the record, as they say. And it went on to be a hit. A couple of years later, they asked me to replace Roseanne. I said, no, I don't think I'm going to let politics dictate a great record, So I just waited. And then Roseanne released a record and made her company happy. And a record or so later, I got to release it, my second album.
You had a record in 1985 that went number 9 called Oklahoma Borderline.
Yeah, that was a song I wrote with Guy Clark and Rodney Crowell. It kind of showcased, it was a song that showcased my guitar playing a little bit, and was up-tempo, and that's probably out of most of the records I've released over the last 7 years, it's the most recognizable out of everything except When I Call Your Name.
We're talking about the days when you were over at RCA.
Mm-hmm.
You're now at MCA Records.
I'll tell you, Ralph, those were tough days, too, the first couple of years, 'cause somebody did a study on new artists that cracked the top 10 in 84 and 85, and there was only a handful, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. And in the last couple of years, it was like 25, and it was real tough in those days for a new artist to get some recognition. It wasn't near as fashionable to be new, I guess, back then.
I think the first record I remember you're doing was Turn Me Loose.
Mm-hmm. That was the first album that I ever did. And that was the 3rd single off the Turn Me Loose album. Got to, I think, 39 on the charts.
When did you leave RCA?
Last year, a year ago.
So this album, When I Call Your Name, is your first effort for MCA Records.
Right.
And it looks like it's going to be your most productive.
Yeah, by several records. It's closing in on the possibility of being a gold album. I don't think I ever sold more than 60,000 records for any of the records I made over at RCA, and a lot of that's my fault, and I can shoulder that just as much as I can the success of this one.
Vince, I'd like to talk about the personal side. What kind of fella are you?
Pretty good guy.
Are you?
Average husband, seriously great dad.
How many children do you have?
Just one.
How old?
8 years old. Her name's Jenny.
Jenny is really growing up in show business, isn't she?
She is. I mean, it's hysterical. Like, say, Mommy's going to be on this show. She says, well, I'd rather watch The Simpsons, or I'd rather watch whatever else, you know. So she's very unaffected by the whole thing, which I think is very healthy, and she's seen it very early on, and so for her to be, you know, everything to her is normal. You know, she doesn't know that other folks have moms and dads that work from 9 to 5 every day and come home and have dinner, and what she knows is what we've been for the last 10 years or 8 years, I guess. So she's a real well-adjusted, great kid.
Are you well-adjusted?
Yeah.
Does the golf help relieve the pressures of the music business?
The golf is great. I love the fact that I have so many outlets and so many different friends in different areas. I got a guy, Rick Bird, he's the head coach at Belmont College. He's a basketball coach, and he's like one of my best buds, and we get together and we can talk sports. We can talk about, you know, defenses in basketball. We can talk about players. We can talk golf. We can talk holes. We can talk grass. We can talk all these things that have nothing to do with the music business, and it's such a great release. And I got my basketball buddies that I go play hoops with at noon, and a lot of guys that played college ball, and so it's a good competitive game with good play, and it's just all those different kinds of things are really healthy for you to get away and not have to be music 24 hours a day.
I am concerned about one thing from what you told me earlier. If you sometimes get upset with your golf and you're using that as a release from the music business, how can that work?
Well, I'm a lot better now. My reputation is maybe 10 years old. It's still, you know, riding with me, or 20, whatever, but I don't get near as upset as I used to on the golf course. And it's, you know, I mean, I'm upset at golf. I'm not upset at something's going on in different places. So that's, once you let it out, it's gone, and you're not.
What else do you do for fun?
Fish a little bit. Started fishing again a few years ago, and I'd go bass fishing. Spend a lot of time with Jenny. We do stuff together and pal around a lot.
Vince, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
I wish you well. You obviously have the talent, and like cream, it has finally risen to the top.
Well, for a while. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Hal Durham said to me that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. He says, son, he says, if it takes you as long to go back down as it did to get up there, he says, you're going to be around for a long, long time.